Welcome to another episode of The Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes, the storytelling show that features The Clearing, where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to be told. And where all my guests have two things in common. They're all creative individuals and all with an interesting story to tell. There are some lovely storytelling metaphors, a clearing, a tree, a juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare and a cake. So it's all to play for. So yes, welcome to The Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. And there we have it. And I'm always counting to 4 before I come in, so I don't have to edit this on later. So yes, welcome. Well, that's 4 welcomes to the lovely Scottish BAFTA award-winning actress, Shauna Macdonald. Also known, I really enjoyed researching you. You told me a couple of weeks ago, if we Google you, a lot of horror comes up, which I thought was quite nice. Because you're known as the Queen of Scream or the Scream of Queen or the Scream Queen, partly because you're in The Descent, which presses everyone's buttons. That was circa 2006, and I know you did The Descent too, as if we'd already not had enough of it going dark and things biting us in the darkness. You did it in 2009. And you also happen to be married to a man who's rowing across the Atlantic at the moment, actor Cal McIninch. You're a dynamic duo of acting profession awesomeness. So Shauna Macdonald, you are extremely welcome to The Good Listening To Clearing.
Thank you for having me. Very excited.
Lovely. And you mentioned just a few moments ago, every day is a frenetic day or a weird day at the moment, partly because of what's going on in the background. So not just your background at home, but tell us all, please, what's going on in the background.
So Cal, as you mentioned, is rowing across the Atlantic just now. So they're 10 days in. They're hoping to row anywhere between 36 and 40 days. It's 3,000 miles. They're doing it for charity, and it's a crew of 5. So they're off. Obviously, he'll be away for Christmas and New Year. And we've got 3 kids and 2 dogs and 1 cat. And I run a youth theatre as well as try and act. So it's always busy. And when there's a man down or a man out at sea, it's even busier in a good way.
Yes, and it sounds like he's got the easy job, just rowing the Atlantic.
I think
you've got all that to deal with. Yes,
and he comes back being the hero and the glory, and I'm just trying to keep the house tidy.
And he'll probably pull that old "I'm tired" when he comes back.
Yes, he's very good at not pulling that. Since we've had kids, he's always been good at getting up and getting on, but I think he will actually be exhausted.
Yes. And with your permission, what I'd like to do is do a bit of a postscript, a Captain's Log supplemental at the very end of this, which I'll tag on, because it'd be great to talk about Atlantic Body and Soul and indeed help raise funds for him and for the initiative. Because you've also become the queen of his Twitterverse as well, haven't you? You are the social media queen.
Yes. And I don't really enjoy social media, although I've found it quite cathartic in the last year, but we'll maybe get on to that because my mum died in January. So I found myself posting videos on Instagram of me talking to the camera, which I never thought I'd do. So I've kind of used it to my advantage, never trying to sell anything, just maybe just trying to have some sort of honest release of something that I wanted to. But anyway, this for Cal's epic, it's a whole different ball game. It's about trying to direct as many people to their pages as possible and trying to spread the word so as many people who can manage can donate to the 2 incredible causes. Yeah.
And so you're using it as a sort of catharsis because of, what has happened in recent history, not the Atlantic row. You're talking about your mum's thing and the Instagram.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I've sort of very much when she in the first couple of months after she died, I found it started with this has happened and get in contact. My daughter's just asking if she can let the dog out the bathroom, which they're not usually allowed to do because we just laid the grass, but it's fine. So I did that.
I like that. There's some real life happening there. Who let the dog out? One of your 3 daughters.
One of my 3, yes, it's all fine.
By the way, just while I mention your family, the comedian in me has to ask if your children ask their friends round and they say we're going to McDonald's, do they turn up feeling a bit disappointed?
Well, in Scotland, there's a whole load more Macdonald than there would be anywhere else. So, but yes, I've had that before. I'm afraid it's just round to our house for something like, I don't know, tuna pasta. But anyway, the Instagram thing. So I've used it, yes, cathartically when my mum died, and you realise you join this the club that nobody wants to be a part of, which is the Dead Mothers Club. But actually, in that club is some amazing people that I knew already, and loads of people that I didn't know, and sort of started this dialogue, not in any sort of blog, very often on, not really following anything up, but sort of bursting out onto Instagram and then taking lots of time to read what everybody else had gone through. And also it was really helpful to know other people's journeys with it, because it's really awful. And it's good when people,
catharsis in commonality of experience, obviously.
Exactly. When people are real with you, you know, just saying things like, actually, it's really awful, and you don't stop missing them. It's not that anything makes it better, but you learn to live alongside the grief, and you know, the big statements, you know, not letting it swallow you up and things like that, actually really was helpful. And I'm quite a honest, straightforward person. I don't really go in for mantras or mottos, but actually in that moment, those sort of things helped to ground me and helped me to stay afloat.
See what you did there with Atlantic.
See what I did.
So yes, all life is pulling across the Atlantic at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, lovely analogy there and metaphor. So let's get you on the open road of the good listening to, and I'm sure, I mean, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you, is your father still around?
My dad is still around. So I moved back to Edinburgh, and Cal and I live on the street that my family home is on. And that was very much a decision to leave London I don't think my agent was that impressed, but leave London to be around my mum and dad to have kids. So he's very close. He's just next door, literally next door. So I still see my dad a lot, which is great.
And I'm hoping you're going to talk about the Edinburgh Youth Theatre as well, because you're
Oh, yes, I am, which is actually just over my wall. And that's one of the reasons why it exists, because I've made it fit. I couldn't run it because I am really busy with acting. Thank goodness, touching all the wood, I'm still managing to keep in there and get my foot in the door. And so, we've grown that Edinburgh Youth Theatre. We now have 230 kids every week, and we do work in schools. And we've just been given an exciting new project with Creative Scotland that will give free access to our film curriculum. So yes, we're doing that alongside, and the venue literally is next door to my house, so I can.
And I don't doubt, very exciting for the youth theatre attendees to know that they've got a working actress who's also being prolifically successful and showing that you can do this and be busy and be a parent and be a multitasker. There
is a bit of that, but when you're down doing the sort of nuts and bolts of it, I am to many of them Shauna, and also other people's mum. I'm their pal's mum, and I will come in and, you know, after I've done a shoot or something and talk about. But if they're not having fun in class, if they're not exploring exciting things within class, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. You know, I've been able to bring in really exciting people into the project, people that I've worked with. So coming up, we're working with amazing people. In the past, we've had master classes, including from James McAvoy, Jack Loudon, Kate Dickey, Steph Smith, Sam Hewen, Moyo Akande, Simone Pereira Hind, like loads of amazing people that just happen to be in my phone. But John McPhail as well, and they come back because they give their time up because they want to pass it on, and also they get it and they understand what I'm doing, which is trying to give as much performing arts experiences and removing obstacles. And they want to give.
And there's a resonance, isn't there? And until you ask the question, the answer is always going to be no. And often if you ask people for help and they get the calls, they'll say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this film curriculum that we're launching, the masterclasses that we're doing involve coming in or doing online, but actual teaching. And I thought, okay, that people might be a bit more resistant to it, because often creatives, they sort of panic about passing on their knowledge in a way that's structured. And I said, I'll help with the actual, lesson plan. But everybody said yes. So,
yes.
And that's a different commitment to, like a drop in for a Q&A. So, we've got incredible directors, makeup artists, costume designers, producers, script writers that are going to come in and actually work in and amongst the young people to try and, because Scotland's got this incredible capacity to tell stories. But what has happened, and it's sort of levelling out, but not enough, we didn't really have the capacity to hold on to our people, or people who live with it. By that, I mean people living within Scotland. That's all I mean by that. So you get to, and also in schools, a lot of schools don't even offer it as a part of the curriculum. They have like a media studies or a drama, but there was kind of no film, or it just, young people didn't know and still don't know how to get into the film industry. So I'm part of a mission really to try and give skills to young people within Scotland and make connections with, the higher education, Creative Scotland, production companies, and sort of marry it all together. So people, when they get older and are choosing to do, are they going to stay in Scotland? Yes, or move away with their talents, that they choose to actually stay here because they can create a living. And when I graduated in 2002 from the RCS, there was no question. We were told to go to London. We were really told if you stay in Scotland, you can exist in Scottish theatre. Yes. Go to London if you want to exist anything bigger. And that wasn't entirely true. It depends who you were talking to, but that was the message that I heard. So I went to London and did lots of great things, but actually to the point where I wasn't really getting seen for anything Scottish anymore. And there was very much, I think, a snobbery. There's a postcode snobbery of where you live. Yes. And if you have a London postcode, still exists. I think whoever, holds the cards thinks that particular actor, artist, crew member is better for the job. And if you have an LA postcode, they will fly you in quite happily rather than getting someone from down the road in Fife. I mean, it really is quite awful.
There's an equivalence of that in the fact I'm based in Bristol, and there's a circuit. There's a film industry that there is a circuit, but there is still that irony of, if you want to really go for the audition, you've got to go to London to do it. But absolutely. I'm really glad you're trailblazing, and so you've done a bit of a homecoming. The Queen of Scream has done homecoming.
Yes.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. The station that makes you feel good.
What do you think about that title, by the way? I know it's lovely and it catches all, but of course it's the least of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've got fellow friends that I've met through the years on various panels, horror panels and film festivals, who are also Scream queens. Some like it, some don't. The ones that don't, their opinions have points such as to call someone a Scream queen kind of dilutes severely what an actor in that sort of genre has to do. And I don't think I've ever screamed in a horror film. I've roared and shouted and fought and had, an anguished voice or a very angry voice. I have never screamed. I think the scream is a hangover from that sort of, slasher movie type, running away from a male with a knife. And I've never done that sort of film, and I don't think I will do that sort of film. And there's so many sub-genres in horror. So I think I've got footage of me saying I'm now a BAFTA winning Scream queen and I love it. I've since thought about me saying I was overcome with the moment.
And by the way,
Yeah.
In researching you, I like the title The Mutant Chronicles, which made me think it's like a diary of a zombie. It was a day in the life of a zombie. Like, I've no idea what it was like. I just like the title. There's also that irony of one of your first TV breaks was Spooks. And of course, that sounds like that's getting into horror, but of course, that was the spy genre as opposed to.
Yes, and that's back on BBC iPlayer, actually. So if you want to see a very young 21-year-old Shauna Macdonald, whose voice, I sound like I'm 12. I mean, I've always had a hang-up about my voice. And when I'm not, my voice isn't on it today. Like, I've really got to, if I want to sound grounded and, impactful with my voice, I actually do have to work on it, because I had a lisp when I was a kid and it's quite high. And so if I'm quite conscious of my voice.
And by the way, I'm not just being kind to you. You need to just park your hang up.
I'll park that. Okay, it's okay.
Because it's a script of the past that's no longer helpful.
That's true. But my goodness, when I was younger, wowzers, I remember being frustrated at, why am I getting these vulnerable roles? I don't feel vulnerable. And then I sort of look back at myself and hear myself and go, wow, I had a softness. And then I did The Descent, and then people started to give me kind of more robust roles.
Gave you more gravitas and authority, because you can, I mean, it pressed all my buttons. I did see that film, and just the idea of claustrophobia and being in the dark and the light suddenly switching off and then things that are coming to get you. It's not good.
No. It's all your worst nightmares.
So let's get you on the open road then, of the structure of, we're going to ask in a minute where your clearing is, and then I'm going to arrive with a tree, then we shake your tree, then there's going to be alchemy, some gold, a couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's all to play for.
Love it.
Shauna Macdonald, BAFTA, Scottish BAFTA, award-winning actress. And by the way, that was for the film White Chamber, wasn't it?
Yeah,
just to mention.
A horror film. Yeah, it was.
What is a clearing like for you? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and able to think?
It may sound obvious, but I go to the beach. We're very close to the beach. I've grown up. I grew up in Portobello, which is Edinburgh's seaside, and I used to run a lot. I ran a lot until I couldn't run anymore. Really, I did an Ironman where you finish the whole event with a marathon, and that kind of just my knees sort of decided after that I'd run myself out. I used to run along the coast, and that used to be where I got peace, because I've always had this thing of momentum. I have to if I'm not moving forward, I have to physically move forward. And I realized that running, that was why I was getting hooked, because I felt like I'd done something because I'd moved through the space. Anyway, so I now have dogs that sort of tick that box anyway, in terms of you have to walk them, you have to move through the space. So I will go down to our beach and walk along the shore, feeling calm, feeling where I am. Portobello for me is my absolute home. It's where I feel safe. I grew up here. I know so many people here. I'm surrounded by the memory of my mum, and all her friends are still here. So I feel very much rooted, and the sea just calms me down.
So, in terms of the velocity and the momentum of moving forward, I remember from a conversation that I had with Cal, you've got dogs of two very different sizes, haven't you? So.
Yes, we've got a massive Weimaraner. Many people mistake him for a small Great Dane. And we've got a very small Pom Chi, which is a Chihuahua Pomeranian cross. They're both short-haired, and they do like that. I get at least the comment little and large twice a day.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And I can imagine the pace that you have to move at is quite nicely, the walking squad finds their pace, because everyone's different size, shape, state, and all of that.
Well, it's nice. The wee one, Loki, he sort of sticks with me, trots behind me, and the big one, Bear, he bounds off and makes friends with all the other dogs, and we just follow behind. It's very sweet.
Comically, I always hope that it'd be like a handbag dog for Cal whenever he goes to any big
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Paris Hilton was, she's sort of the 90s magazine queen when I was growing up. And I didn't want to be Paris Hilton, but I did want her handbag dog. So when I turned 40, Cal got me a handbag dog.
Congratulations and all that shebang. Okay. So we're on Portobello. We're walking along the beach. And are you with your dogs at this moment? I'm about to arrive with a tree to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out.
I don't like really being on my own, so yes, I'll be with the dogs. Yeah.
And the girls with you, and Cal, you can decide. I'm just getting an idea of what's
No, it's just me and the dogs, because generally I get out. That's when I escape. I have to walk with the dogs suddenly.
And I like that, reading between the lines. If you had to choose, Mum, between us and the dogs, who would you choose? You've chosen the dogs.
The dogs, I'm afraid, are down the bottom of the ladder, but just for headspace. Because as a mum, you're always needed. Even when you're just on a walk, you're needed. Mum, can we talk about this? Or Mum, what do you think about, and if you want headspace, you go out with either by yourself or things that can't talk.
Lovely. So I'm going to arrive now, a bit waiting for Godot-esque, deliberately, existentially, to arrive with my tree. Now, this is where you've prepared. You've had 5 minutes at Shauna Macdonald to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and borrow from the film Up. That's my squirrels moment. What never fails to grab your attention, irrespective of anything else that's going on for you in your obviously hectic and frenetic life. And then finally, a quirky or unusual fact about you you couldn't possibly know until you tell us. So over to you to interpret the shaking of the canopy of your tree.
So the 4 things that have shaped me. So I have to say, the support from my mum and dad, when I said that I wanted to be an actor, there was never resistance at all. They were just thrilled that I had found something that I really enjoyed doing and I was passionate about. So their unending support. And I forgot to, when I got my Scottish BAFTA, I didn't thank them, and I've always regretted it. And I always thought, I'll get another one and thank them. But obviously my mum cannot hear it anymore. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I've written her name on my arm as a tattoo. So should I ever get, and I will never forget, that'll be my note. I want to thank my mum. Anyway, so their unending support.
By the way, that was such a lovely moment for anyone watching the film, and you've just revealed the most glorious tattoo on your arm saying mum.
Yeah. We got it, my sister and I got it on her 70th birthday, which was a week after she died. She was going to get a tattoo herself. She had she been ill already? She died of complications after COVID. So she was a vulnerable case. And had she not got COVID, that wouldn't have been her time. But she got...
I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. But so she was ill from September 2021 and died in January the 25th of this year. But so my mum and dad sort of unending support. When I was young, my dad, so that's number 1, that thing that shaped me, because I would maybe be a teacher, which is great, but it's not what I just want to do. I do teach, but I know it's not
what you also want to do. I love
what I also want to do. So when I was 8, I remember my mum and dad still together, married for a long time, 30 years, I think. My dad said he's going to Saudi for 5 years to work. And I said, what? So my dad worked away abroad, so we wouldn't see him very much. And I remember, kids can be very cruel. I remember deciding to survive the situation by emotionally blocking him out of my life. And it took quite a few years, I think, for me to allow him back in. So I hate goodbyes. I will not do goodbyes. I hate speaking on the phone when people are away. I would rather just not know. And I'm in a very tricky situation just now because I'm in charge of the bloody social media. So I have to know all this stuff about Cal being away, and I hate it. It's torture. It's absolute torture. So, and also when my dad would come home, I knew, okay, well, you're here for a week. and then you're here for 2 weeks, but I know after a week I'll just be counting the days down. So I just will not enjoy the time at all because the separation is too much. So I definitely have a bit of a hang up about people leaving, and I pretend that I just don't care, which is not healthy.
And what's his motivation to just go to Saudi to earn wages?
So we could survive. So we could. Yeah. So my sister and I could have more options. And I mean, it was a huge sacrifice, and I completely understand it now, obviously. And we're close now, and we have spoken about it. And God, he must have so kind not to retaliate with what I was giving him, you know.
And how old were you when he left, Shauna?
8. I was 8.
Right,
so it was yeah. So his sort of, and you know, we did go to Saudi, and we had a great experience of another culture and all the great stuff. By the way, he was a teacher. He taught. So it was with Aramco Oil, but he wasn't an engineer. He would teach the Saudis and the non-English speakers English, and then he went into teaching them IT skills. And my dad's a very bright guy. I think he's got 3 degrees or something ridiculous. And he went down the teaching route, and he worked abroad. I was born in Malaysia, and my mum and dad used to also live in Oman. So that was going away, being adventurous. I guess that was passed down on to me as well. I love going away, and I do. We have Cal and I and the kids have lived in different places for jobs and things. And my job is very much, you're quite transient through your life. You make friends, and I've still got lots of very great old friends, but it's very much the adventure at the time, and then you move on to another adventure. And my mum and dad were great at doing that. So there's that. Number 3, I had my first kid at 26. And for an actor, that's quite young. And for an actor, when things were going really well, that was pretty young as well. But when I met Cal when I was 23 and he was 41. And we did a radio play together. And I was like, who is this old dude with like tattoos on his arms? Why is he not married? What's wrong with him? But he's so much fun. Why do I like this guy so much? This is really odd. This is not the sort of person I would tend to go for. He very much felt, we were in London, he very much felt like someone from home. Like the connection felt like we'd known each other an extremely long time. And it didn't make sense in my head because he was so much older than me. And I thought, this can't. And then, so we did the radio play for a couple of days, and then we all went to the pub, as you do. And then we all went to Soho. I was supposed to actually see my friend Abigail McKern in a play, and I missed it. I did go and see it with Cal. I was supposed to go and see her in Attention Must Be Paid, Death of a Salesman. And I was just having so much fun with Cal. I was like, oh. So I told Abby, it was terrible, that I couldn't make it, but I'd come and see her, which we did. We did follow through on that. And I just had this incredible night with Cal in Soho, and it was so much fun. And he was just, I knew he was a good one because he kept getting phone calls from friends. And then I'd meet his friends, and his friends were great. And I thought, you are a good one. And this is such an adventure. I think we'll hang out a bit more. Anyway, so we hung out. We had like a summer of love. And then I dumped him swiftly every 2 weeks after that, thinking this can never work. And then realized this has got to work because he just makes everything so much better for me. So I thought, right, if we're going to have kids, we've got to get on with it. And I didn't expect it to happen quite so fast. But anyway, yeah, so we had a couple of years of good fun, and then we just got down to having kids. And then I was 26, told my agent. I remember the conversation on the phone because I was shooting something called Wedding Bells, and I'd done a week, and they had to reshoot a fight sequence. And I was like, oh God, I feel quite nervous about this fight sequence. And I phoned my agent. I said, look, can you speak to the producers? Because the thing is, I'm pregnant. And there was a pause. She says, well, you've shot a week, darling, so it'll be more expensive to replace you. So we'll just talk to them. So she was worried that I'd lose the job, and she was doing her job right. But it kind of, after that, I did keep my pregnancies quiet for as long as I could in the business. But yes, having kids early has completely, not early, or when I had kids at 26, everything changed emotionally for me. I didn't want to. I turned quite a few auditions down. Some work I did turn down because I just wanted to be with my kids. I just wanted to, and it doesn't actually I thought, okay, when I get to 40 or whatever it is, I'll be a young mom, the kids will be fine, and then I can go off and traveling. But actually, as soon as you get a call for a job, your first question is, how long is it? Where is it?
Yes.
Can the kids come? Because it's the pull, isn't it? The drawback to your kids is so strong.
But it's so lovely that you get sucked into an adventure in principle, but you're going to do it as a squad, which is really good. And
that's it. Yeah. And we do, and we have, my middle kid was born in Johannesburg, in the sticks, actually, in Johannesburg, in the house out in the country, because Cal was shooting wild at heart. Our eldest was only 2.5, so we thought, oh, well, I'll just get pregnant again and go over. And so we had her over there, and it's brilliant. We've been to Canada, we've been to Australia, and we're going to Antigua as a squad to welcome Cal home. So yeah, we're very much a squad of us. And I don't see why it shouldn't be that. I mean, I've had heated debates with producers when they're, when the kids are tiny as well, and I have to breastfeed and I need to bring my kids in, and I need to bring, my mum was great. She used to help me. But the hoops that they used to make you go through, you can't anymore, I don't think, with how things are going. I had to once sign a paper saying I was absolutely responsible for the life of my child. So of course, why? It's all insurance. Yeah.
And also as we know, that adage, control your destiny or others will control it for you. I love the fact that it gives you power back, because acting as a profession is often powerless. So anything that reclaims that power and the centre ground of that is obviously positive.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had time to reflect over the last couple of years in lockdown and what is important. And for me, love is it. And there's so much love in my house and in my life that when you do, I don't feel the need to chase this ungraspable goal of being a fill in the blank actor. I just want to be an actor and have a family.
And the lovely position if they wait for them to come to you rather than you needing to be desperate to go to them, which is just a much better, more authentic, more, present and, kinder to your own heart as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's important.
Yeah.
Lovely. We're still doing the shapage. We could be up to number 4. Cashier, number 4, please. Unless we've done that.
Yes, no. I've got a really strong work ethic, and I think I got it from my dad, who's a bit of a workaholic. And I wasn't really aware of it until I started to because I thought everybody works really hard being an actor. Everybody works. I went to a drama college, and you're in there from 9 till 9, and you just, you work really, really hard. And then I started to make all these sort of decisions in my life. I would work really hard, and then I got into running, and I would run, did marathons, and I did this Ironman, which was insane. And then I started to do the youth theatre, and then I'm doing a master's, and then I won't just have one kid, I'll have 3, and it's like this and I guess it's more than just a work ethic. It's I guess a bit of an addiction to being busy, to feel that I'm working hard. I don't like things to feel easy. And I remember at drama college, I once had this conversation with a tutor, and they first of all told me to not take things so seriously. And I was really confused by that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm seriously trying to do my bit. And I totally understand what they mean. I'm sort of working myself up into this has got to be difficult. And then, my agent has told me before, a few years ago now, maybe about 10 years, to have more of a sense of humour about the industry. I said, what do you mean? I'm just working so hard. But I kind of get that. And now I try, in the work I'm doing, especially since, the last couple of years, and I try and make sure that if I'm working hard on something, that I'm enjoying that process. So if I'm working hard at the youth theatre, that it is enjoyable. You're not just stuck in this. So for example, things that I hate, admin, and I'm dyslexic, and it is actual torture looking at a screen. And I make loads of mistakes, and I get it raises an anxiety in me, because it doesn't really matter how long I spend on something. If I'm not surrounded in the room by other people calming me down and correcting my mistakes, it will just be a torturous experience. So, we've got...
And there's a sort of... What I'm hearing is a sort of centre ground of a desire to emanate like a centrifugal force energy, but you're not doing it in a scattering to the winds way. Because also what I'm hearing is, because of your self-awareness in what matters and what really counts, love being at the heart of it, and your family, the squad, it means, I don't doubt, you've got very good and discerning at knowing exactly what to say yes to. It's a process, but also be really clear about what to say no to. Yeah.
And I think I'm quite... hard-headed and forceful in situations where I've had to be, in situations where I'm sort of sticking up for somebody else or trying to get something.
So principled and assertive.
Yes, I think so. I think you've got to be, it's frowned upon when I remember having a conversation with Cal. I was having trouble on set. And he tried to give me advice. And I said, look, mate, it is fine coming from you, who, whatever age he was, I think he was in his 40s. I'm a under 25-year-old actress. If I behave like that, if you say things how you are advising me to say, it's going to be so tricky for me. I've got to be clever about it. And there was an element of having to be clever about getting your objective. But as you get older, and maybe as you get a bit more confident about your worth in situations, and I'm just a bit more forthright without, being aggressive.
And self-awareness is the holy grail. So if one knows one's own worth, that's the epic quest we're all on, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one's own centre ground, whatever that is, with principles, values, and what you hold dear.
Yes, exactly. I agree.
And now I believe we're on to 3 things that inspire you.
What have I put? I know Cal said me, so I felt Cal does inspire me. Cal is incredible. Cal is unafraid, or that's not true, because he's brave, and to be brave you have to have fear and sort of choose to do. But his approach to life, like I said, I met him when he was 41. I'm like, who is this guy with no wife or kids? He must just be a nightmare. He must just be so self-obsessed that he's never, And then the more I learned about him, the more I realized that he just is a very much in the present type of dude, and doesn't attach drama to anything that doesn't need it. He's not interested in conflict. And I am. And so that's tricky. But I win all the time, so it's fine.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
He's not interested in conflict, and he's really interested in adventure. That's my dog talking. He's lost his ball. Edward, do you mind getting his ball for him? It's just, okay. And making connections with people. And, there's the whole Edinburgh-Glasgow divide thing, where if you're at a bus stop in Edinburgh and someone talks to you, you're like, oh, and your bus stop in Glasgow, and you don't talk to the person next to you. They're like, what's wrong with this person? They're not talking to me. So Cal, when we're in a rush doing the school run or whatever, Cal stops to talk to people. It's not just a hi. And then I'll see him say, do you know? No, I don't know him. We just, oh my God, what? Head down and walk. Edinburgh way. So Cal sort of, part of our vows, that we made a vow. We had a humanist ceremony, which was lovely, and you come up with your own vows. And my memory is notoriously bad. Apparently, it's a dyslexia thing. I don't remember lots of things. Big life events. It's like they never happened. I read back papers I've written. I don't remember writing them. It's really quite bad. Anyway, so Cal tells me about all these events. However, I do remember one of the vows is that we promised to keep having adventures, to keep going on adventures together. And through the, the mundanity sometimes of having to, just keep going and keep the house going, and where are we going to get work? And there's always a sense of adventure, and also we go on these crazy adventures, and he's, off rowing the Atlantic Ocean. So Cal for me is hugely inspiring. My mum she had polio when she was a kid, and she was born with spina bifida, so curvature of the spine, and she had a leg shorter than the other. She had to get it stretched when she was a kid. So she spent a lot of time through her years, and then she got post-polio syndrome, which is not nice. So she was in and out of hospital and a lot, and in pain, constant chronic pain all the time. And there was a lot of pain management going on. And I didn't sort of understand when I was a kid, because she was just so capable. And like I said, my dad went to Saudi, so she just got on with it, with, the two of us, and keeping things going. And I used to joke, I was so busy. I had basketball, swimming, badminton, gymnastics, drama, all these things. And I sort of realized that was just a way that my mum coped, just keeping us busy back in the day when actually you could go somewhere for 50 pence and it didn't break the bank. But her resilience and her sort of, the way she attacked life was incredible, considering her physical challenges, and her house was always an open house. There was always lots of people around our house. Everyone was so welcome. And at her funeral, it was packed. People were standing. Me and my dad but my dad was like MC for not MC, but whatever you call it. And then I did a bit as well, but we were standing together, and there was people behind me, like all around the coffin, and, people were standing, and it just reflected, and what my dad said, beautiful things about her, reflected her ethos. And it was really about living and loving and accepting everyone as someone of value in your life. And she had so many friends, and she always said yes to adventures, So my mum. So for the third one, so I got into teaching 7 years ago because my big two went to this drama club in Portobello, and the girl that was took it, she was going off to have her second kid, and my kids loved it. It was really tiny little thing. It was called Porty Youth Theatre, and they did fun stuff, but it was manageable for one person to run it. And I said, oh, well, I'll take on the primary class. It was one class. And that, cut to 7 years later, we've got 200 odd young people. And actually, what inspires me is them, because they don't know, of course, there's different phases of a young person's life, and their sort of, their awareness of themselves. And you teach a class for 7 to 8 year olds, and they're a lot, not all the time, but you will find young people who are completely free and unafraid of appearing silly, and then, you go to the high school classes, and there's a whole different, they've had a whole load of life behind them, and a whole load of things go on, and they have a different approach. But whoever I'm teaching, or teach a lot less, or whoever I'm watching, when you get a moment when they do something that they either didn't know they could do or didn't think they could do, or you can see their faces like discover something about themselves for the first time. It's just, God, it's so, so amazing. And to know that Cal hates this word facilitator. I don't know why he hates it so much, but you've facilitated that only in the sense that, I've got this thing going. We've created a safe space. It's inclusive. So we provide whatever it is that's needed to provide for anyone to come, and to give them the opportunity to, and then them to go, oh yeah, it's great. And to give them also a relief from their lives, because they've had, we've got vulnerable people that come, but also, they've had, the last couple of years have been pretty awful, but to be able to watch them be joyful and light and inspired, it's like, oh, that's what life is about. And to watch someone do that and be that is amazing.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I think now we're on to two things that never fail to grab your attention. Well, squirrels. So you may have, if there's any overlap, don't worry, but two things.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm slightly addicted to my phone. It's sort of crept up on me. It's really awful. I have to deal with that.
Next monster of distraction or squirrel?
Mailing lists for funding applications. So we're constantly trying to get funding. So if there's a funding application for accessible, inclusive experiences in the performing arts, I'm like, right.
And now, if I may lick us along to a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know, Shauna Macdonald, until you tell us.
So after we shot The Descent, me and 3 other girls went to Soho and got a nipple pierced.
Great quirky or unusual fact. So we've shaken your tree, and now we're still in the clearing, which is on the beach with your dogs, the squad, some of the squad. And now
they can be in the background. I've just broken away to get some peace.
Yes, I called you towards me and the tree. So now we're going to talk about alchemy and gold. You may have given us this already by the bucket load in any case, but when you're at purpose and in flow, Shauna Macdonald, what are you absolutely happiest doing?
Acting. I know that's very obvious, but there's something that just reminds you of why you've chosen this crazy life when you're on stage or when you're discovering something in a rehearsal room. And
now I'm going to award you with a cake. So do you like cake, Shauna Macdonald?
I do like cake, yes.
So what's the cake of choice, please? It's a metaphor.
The cake of choice, probably a good chocolate fudge cake that's warm. It's been melted.
Nom, 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 nom. So now we get to put a cherry on the cake, so it's becoming a bit of a Black Forest gâteau. So now this is a series of storytelling metaphors to do with what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, what's a favourite quote. You've given us one already, maybe there's another one. And then what notes, help or advice might you offer to a younger version of yourself? And we're ramping up towards Shakespeare and All the World's a Stage and a bit of legacy. So how would you like to interpret your cake?
So what was the first one? Remind me.
So in any order you like, have you got another inspirational quote that's always given you succor and pulled you towards your future?
Quote, well, I think just when my agent said have a sense of humour. I know that's not a quote, that was advice. Is that the same? Have a sense of humour. Have a sense of humour, meaning it's not personal, and laugh when the shit stinks. It's funny.
Nice. Slapstick. Comedy in the darkness. All good.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Well, I guess that was my agent, but my mother told me I can do anything I wanted, which is not true. But she, having been a disabled woman who had limited choices, told her children they could do anything they wanted. And, by the way, we couldn't. It's not that we had a bottomless pit of money. My dad sacrificed 5 years so we could, go to uni. But actually, that made me go, yeah, I can. So I've made lots of choices on the belief that I can, but actually the knowledge I know I can't. So, I'll have 3 kids, I'll open this thing and I'll be an actor and we'll do all these things because I can do anything I want.
And it links rather nicely to that philosophy of if someone asks you to do something, you don't know how, say yes and work it out later. It just gives
very
you
much,
a strident yes and, which again...
It's a yes and, yeah. And very much yes.
The world of comedy improvisation as well. Okay, what's the what notes, help or advice might you proffer to a younger version of yourself?
Put effort in to all your friendships.
I was using silence there to let it hang. Thank you very much. I liked it. It was perfect. And now, inspired by Shakespeare and all the world's a stage and all the Billy players, when all is said and done, Shauna Macdonald, Scottish BAFTA award-winning actress, how would you most like to be remembered?
Someone who you wanted to hang out with the most. Someone that you always looked forward to seeing.
Where can we find out more about Shauna and the Edinburgh Youth Theatre on the interweb?
Well, Edinburgh Youth Theatre does exist on the old Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our website is www.eytheatre.com.
Well, and then where about you as an actress? I know we can Wikipedia you as well, but about
me? So I exist as well on Twitter, Shauna Macdonald. The Owen Macdonald's a 0. So clever, because there's another Shauna Macdonald who I love, and she lives in Toronto, and we were over there with Cal's play The Judas Kiss, and I direct messaged her on Twitter and I said, Shauna, it's Shauna, shall we meet up? We keep getting each other's fan mail, let's just meet up and be pals. So we met up, she came to the press show, and it was like, you know, who do you think you are, that show where you meet. I was so nervous meeting this woman, and she was amazing and so much fun and full of life, and I said, and she's remained in my life. And so she's the other Shauna Macdonald, the Canadian Shauna Macdonald. So on Instagram I'm called the Scottish Shauna Macdonald.
Lovely. As this has been your moment in the sunshine in the Good Listening To show, is there anything else you'd like to say, Shauna?
No, it's just been a pleasure, but I would like to say, I say things in the moment, and I will go away and think about what I've said and change my mind and opinion on what I've just said. That is kind of what I do. And I will forget everything we've said as well.
But I'll send it to you so you can revisit it. But I love the fact you'd change your mind, because that's the construct of this. If you were to do this 3 weeks next Thursday, it would be different.
Yes.
And that's what's exciting about it.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Me Chris Grimes, but this has been Shauna Macdonald in the Good Listening To show. Do hang around, because we're going to do, after the outro, we're going to do a quick postscript about Atlantic Body and Soul, and the fact that Cal McInch is now, as we record this, is splapping across the Atlantic, rowing 3,000 miles. But find out more about that after this. But thank you very much indeed. Would you like to say anything else?
Thank you for listening.
And good night. You've been listening to the Good Listening To show here on UK Health Radio with me, Chris Grimes. Oh, it's my son.
If you've enjoyed the show, then please do tune in next week to listen to more stories from the clearing.
If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, then please do so. There's also a dedicated Facebook group for the show too. You can contact me about the programme, or if you'd be interested in experiencing some personal impact coaching with me, care of my Level Up Your Impact programme, that's chris@secondcurve.uk. On Twitter and Instagram, it's
@thatChrisGrimes.
So until next time, from me, Chris Grimes, from UK Health Radio, and from Stan,
To your good health.
and goodbye.